Hello and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans, and we're here to review Undersige. What a show it was! It actually confused me when I first started watching the show because I thought the pre-show was like maybe going to be 30 minutes long or whatever it was, but it was like an hour long. And I was like, wait a minute, something's wrong there. Somehow, for some reason, they put it up as like an hour and included some of the like proper undersige show, at least initially for a little while. I think they fixed it after a little while, but whatever. That's a minor thing, honestly. But I got to see some extra stuff on there, I guess, while I was doing other things. But the action began, well, not the action, I guess, but the show began with Robert Stone coming out to, have a bit of a diss against Santino Marella and discuss the struggles for power. So, yeah. Then we finally got the upcoming match between Rosemary and Zaya. Like I said, I felt like the resultant here wouldn't really matter, and that this would build to a later payoff thus far, and it feels like it is building to a later payoff at some point. So again, that's probably why they kind of felt like, oh well, this is on the pre-show and whatnot. It's funny that there really wasn't very much else on the pre-show. I mean, there was a lot of discussion and chatter. I don't know how long this match was, but it didn't feel overly long, but then again, it wasn't overly short either. I think the opening promo took up quite a bit of time there, but it is one of those things. But still, I don't know. This match was okay, I guess. I guess it's one of those things that's like, well, type thing with the result, because like it ended in disqualification effectively. So, and again, like you start saying, well, that's, a bit of a shit finish, but it's like to build to something else later down the road. So it's like, it's more or less sort of a TV match, and just, again, one of those matches that is to, a little bit of something to get the fans that are sort of coming in the door hyped for the show. And there's yet another sellout here. So looking good there on that front. But there was some good action here amongst the match. Zaya with a few counters to Rosemary's signature offense and whatnot. I liked that because it showed like they've wrestled each other a fair bit, and it sort of showed that they've know each other very well. In the end, Zaya was the one that got disqualified by using the belt or the leather strap or whatever it was that Rosemary introduced to the match. But Zaya snapped absolutely in this match, went completely crazy, attacked several of the referees and whatnot. Interesting to kind of see this, because I think that this is what you kind of need to do, because you can't, like, if you're going to have like a extreme style match of some description with these gals wrestling or whatever in that stipulation, you can't have Zaya sitting there and being like, oh no, I won't use the strap even though it's legal. It's like, you've got to have her feeling like she's in the right frame of mind to be like, no, I'm going to use it, type thing. So this is a little bit of that sort of storytelling, is she will use it because, you've seen her use it. So, but anyway. Next was another promo from, Robert Stone and Victoria Crawford and Tessa Blanchard. This was mostly focusing on their respective rivalries. The like stuff that's going on between these guys, or whatever, these matches and feuds, is starting to, like, it is it in some ways is good, but because I always feel like, and it was this goes throughout the show several times, with them sort of butting heads and whatnot. It's one of those things where it's like, this is the sort of thing that, kind of, I don't know, it is good because it is like one of those things that, it drives a show, it drives an angle to an extent, but like, you do start to like think how much is too much. I think that they actually got the amount just right. It was just annoying enough to sort of like, but still kind of left you waiting to see like what will happen, how this will be resolved type thing, and not sitting there going, oh my God, they're taking so much away from everything else that it's like, especially on the main show, I think like on the pre-show, it was a little bit more or a lot more really. But on the main show, yes, there was some stuff, but it was like a lot more shorter, intermittent sort of stuff. So, but then Under Siege started. Honestly, like that doesn't sound like it was a half hour long pre-show, but it was. First match wasn't AJ Francis versus Santana. That was the scheduled match. But apparently, AJ was faking or supposedly faking an injury, and he sent KC Navarro in there. Now, before I say what happened, I guess it might be implied in some regard, but like KC, like a few months ago or whatever it was, like he had his match with Leon, and I think that those kids got robbed. Those kids got robbed of having their time because they could have had a really good match. KC has had several really good matches throughout his TNA showing thus far. He's a very talented young kid, and he proved it in this match with Santana. This was an awesome match between these two, and I think that they realize like this is probably why they gave KC this match, is because it's like, hey, we realize, this kid's got something, and we want to showcase him. Like he's the better performer out there. He might like, you might say that he would perform better as being a heel, but I don't know, dude. Like if he keeps that swagger and that character, I think he'll work well. So, yeah, KC lost in this, but yeah, he got Santana's respect at the end. But then, of course, AJ revealed that basically he wasn't really that injured and attacked Santana post-match with his walking cane. So, yeah, like this match was really, really good. And I nearly think that this was almost the match of the night. Like this was a really great opening match, and set the tone really well for the night. And I didn't really think that it would be a great opener. I thought Dina versus Edwards would have been the opener, but like this was a better opener. Like, and the fact that it was Casey instead of like Francis, that made the whole difference for it being the opener. If it had been what's his name, Francis in the match, then it definitely wouldn't have been wouldn't have been an amazing opener. This was an amazing opener. Started off hot and they never really stopped here. But yeah, great stuff here. Then we got on to Dina, which before this, Eric Young actually wished Cody Dean good luck before his match. So that was interesting until we found out something later, but I'll talk about that in a minute. I felt like this story kind of was there, and I felt the fans did kind of have their hometown boy in their hearts here, and like I think that, I don't know. I think that perhaps there is that level of like thinking that, or even on Diener's part, maybe it's time to hang up the boots, you know? So, and that I wouldn't be against him on that, like if he wants to hang up on the boots, that's it, that's his prerogative. If he wants to just do, produce people, or if he wants to be an agent or whatever else it is backstage and help people and stuff like that, and you know that's what he should do, like, but like it depends what he wants to do. If he's, whatever he wants to do is whatever he wants to do. If he wants to still be involved in this thing and he doesn't really, like if he really wants to wrestle one day and says, "Oh yes, I'll put it on and lace them up one last time," or whatever it is, absolutely do it. Like have one last big hurrah somewhere, in a few years' time or something, whatever, cool. But you know, like saying, yeah, am I that big of an attraction, or am I ever going to get there, at my age, whatever else it is, or at my sort of condition? You start saying, well, probably not, And like this match was like built for Diener to showcase himself and to say, hey, I can be as good as the one of the top guys that's been in the company for the last like 10, like even longer than that, isn't it? Like nearly, I don't even know when Eddie debuted, but at least like 10 years. So yeah, but he's also been a big deal elsewhere as well. So, but unfortunately, Diener lost here, so we don't know really what will become of him and what not. But like this was a good fight. This was a good match between these two as well. And really gave Diener a lot of stuff to sort of showcase himself, to be on the level of somebody like Eddie Edwards. After the match, the system came out to sort of rub salt in the wound on Diener, and salt the Canadians, and then the Northern Armory came out in his defense, which was like kind of weird. But they said, basically, we're only here because you're insulting Canada. We are Canadians, so we're not going to take that. And then an impromptu 6-man tag broke out. So that was kind of, interesting in some ways. So, but yeah, that's kind of cool. So the system took on the Northern Armory. And they also had the what the Hammer Honey Badger, one of the Canadian sports mascots there, which was kind of funny, I guess, in some ways. But they also had at ringside some of the like CEOs and mayors or whatever of the building and stuff like that. And eventually they all got kind of involved in this match. This was interesting, especially at the end. I don't really think that this match was much of a great match, because I think it was like fairly rushed for time in some ways, in some regards. But yeah, it was all right, I guess. But Eric Young pinned Moose, so I guess like Eric Young's gonna get a title shot at Against All Odds in like 2 weeks' time, or whatever else it is at Against All Odds. So, but then I start to ask myself the question, like, as I was when I was watching this show, when I was thinking, like, when you're going to build for Slammiversary and Bound for Glory, basically the idea of building those sorts of shows is building up something, with the biggest names that you've got, like you've got some big names, so the biggest names have got to take on the biggest names type thing. You can't just have, random ass jobber teams versus random ass jobber teams, whatever. Like, you can have some of those guys there, but like, like you're wanting to put, like, especially with the marquee matches, you're wanting to put that sort of stuff together. So it starts, like, you've kind of put, I don't know, almost a year's worth of time into Leon Slater, I think, roughly, right? And actually, I will talk about the newest knockouts debuting tonight as well. But that is a little bit later. But still, like, you've put all this time kind of into these kids, or into that kid, and into a whole lot of wrestlers and performers that are on your show. So, like, if that's not one of your big matches, it's the same with the Hardys. It's like, if they're not in a major match, like either at Slammiversary or Bound for Glory or both, it starts being like, well, what's going on here? Like, why aren't you trying to, attract people with some sort of big money match? Like, to say, hey, even if it's like a fatal four-way or something like that, or a triple threat tag or something, whatever else it is, then at least people can sort of, like, and the Hardys are involved. It's like, yeah, okay, well, at least the fans have that to be like, or, I don't know how you could do a tag team tournament in one night, because that would take, like, it would take a whole lot of time to, I mean, you could do it over a couple of weeks or whatever still, so I don't know, but still. Yeah, but still, it's, or maybe a battle royal, I don't know, something. It's tough, isn't it? Because it's like, and then you've got to set it up for Slammiversary or whatever, but still, it's like, yeah, I don't know, you got to think about, like, how you can get that going. I don't know, but still, fine match here. I expect, Eric Young, and I feel like, again, this is sort of like, Moose is gonna win that if it happens, and I feel like it will. But yeah, we'll talk more about it in a moment, or when we're talking about Against All Odds at some point. TNA Knockout, Maya Grace and Harley Hudson were in the crowd watching the Ash and Heather by Elegance versus Spitfire match by Elegance. And it's kind of weird. Like, I'm assuming that they'll be on the next tapings. So, and I think they were on Explosion, like, wrestling each other this week, I believe. So, yeah. But still, it is a bit like, well, what? These girls are, just here? Like, okay. Type thing. They should be, like, finding a way to be involved, or they should be getting interviewed or something like that, or whatever. I don't know. But still, whatever. This was do or die for Spitfire. It was funny. It was not funny, but funny to sort of see, Jody's mom and grandma and whatever else in the front row, and giving them big hugs, and then Ash and, like, that, sort of taunting them and whatnot, and things like that. So yeah, that was kind of funny. But still, I think, like, again, I've sort of said a lot of bad about the tag teams and whatnot, like the female tag teams, but this division, like, I don't know what they were thinking in some regards. Like, I don't know. I really don't. And maybe that is part of it. Maybe they actually went out of their way to say, hey, you know what? It's just not working. Let's give it up. So maybe that's what's happened here, because, like, at the end of the day, this was a pretty decent match, very good, but Spitfire lost. And now it's like, well, there's literally no other tag teams in the division for Ash and Heather to go up against. So unless you're going to bring in jobbers, literal jobbers to face them, it's silly. Like, again, so what's the point in having this division? Because now there's no one else. And, like, again, if you're trying to build up for Slammiversary, which is in only like a month or so from now, or a month and a bit from now, you know, you're starting to say, well, who's our biggest other up-and-coming team or up-and-coming person or whatever else it is, or biggest thing that we could put, you know, in their way against them? There isn't anyone, because there's no one in the fucking division. Like, what are you doing? Even if you're going to put Harley Hudson and whatnot, Maya Grace together as a tag team, so what? They've been together for like 2 minutes, so, or maybe a couple of months at the most. So then it's like, do people give a shit? You know, really? You know, so, and then now what are you going to do with both Jody and Danny? You know, like, but I guess, like, they have earned the opportunity in some ways to be, like, single stars in many ways. So I would like to see that. I would like to see them actually get some time to actually shine. And I think that, you know, it's more important in some ways, because there's, like, in the men's divisions, sort of, there are so many options. There's the tag team option, there's the X division option, and there's the world title division, besides the intercontinental or international title division sort of thing. So, but in the women's division, like, there's the knockouts title and there's the tag titles. I think if you're going to have secondary prize, like, of some sort, you know, it's really tough. But again, just do something else. Make single stars, because it's like, you know, if you're not going to commit and really give time to these tag teams, which they haven't, and they have only got one tag team now, it's like, what are you doing? So, but yeah. We've talked about it a billion times, and I guess we'll have to talk about it a billion more, but whatever. Yeah, so Hash and Heather won, mainly with help from their concierge and Maggie Lee. So I'm wondering, though, about how Spitfire are going to disband. You know, is one going to turn on the other, kind of thing? I don't know. So we'll have to see about that. We had a small promo backstage of Zaya Brookside going a little bit nutso. And then we had the next upcoming match, Order 4 taking on the Rascals and Indy Hartwell. The mystery tag team partner of the Rascals and Indy was Campaign Singh. And that led to not a whole lot. This one wasn't that amazing, but it sort of showcased Mustafa Ali's sort of downward spiral, I guess, even in the fact that they won. I mean, in that, I mean, Order 4 won. But it wasn't horrible, I guess, but still, it was just fine for what it was. But it was a big old brawl mostly, which was kind of good in some ways. But yeah, like, you know, I like to see that fact that Tasha wasn't too injured, because she got injured in the Mustafa Ali Santana match. So it was nice to see that she can you know, continue and whatnot, and is not, you know, crippled or something, or, you know, like, incapacitated or out for so many weeks, which is nice. But at the end of this match was pretty weird, because, like, Ali sort of, like, attacking Campaign Singh after getting the pinfall and whatnot, and then, you know, knocking back Tasha Steelz. And this sort of, it's almost happened a few times. And at a certain point, it's like, well, come on. Where's this going? You guys are clearly not on the same page type thing. But yeah. So, whatever. But yeah, I don't know whether Campaign Singh or whatever you want to call him, Raj Singh, is going to stick around with TNA or whether this is a one-off appearance. Apparently, also, I don't really want to talk about it too much, but Ace Austin's contract expired effectively. So, I don't know what's going on there, dudes. I really don't, and I don't feel good about it. I feel like, I know some people might say, oh, that he was a nepotism hire from Scott D'Amore or whatever else it was. Like, I don't know, but he was such an integral part of TNA, and he was there for so long. And I do hope he does find success, but it does really suck that he's not like there anymore. And the same kind of thing happened with Josh Alexander. It was like, dudes, we should try to hang on to this guy because he is, our top guy. Even if, we say, oh, well, what else can we do with him? We've just got to keep him. We've just got to keep, more of our guys because we can't afford to lose any of our guys. And it's like, that's another thing. We just can't afford to lose anyone that people are like, that's another fumble on our part, or on the company's part. It's like, you need to keep these guys, so that, there is that, level of loyalty and whatnot. So, I don't know. Whatever. This one spot here that, right here that I've got on the screen, where the stack of bodies basically below everyone, and Indy and Tasha got on top of the bodies. That was pretty cool, and they had a fight up there. But yeah. Santino Marella gave Ariana Grace a pep talk backstage, came out to face Tessa Blanchard. We had a Bioflex injury report, and international champion Steve Macklin sent a message to Matt Cardona saying, hey, I'll beat you up next week. So now the match between Grace and Blanchard. Interesting stuff here at the start as well, but still getting some heat here with Robert coming out and saying, Santino can't be out here because he's not a manager and whatnot, having to send him to the back and whatnot for this match. So, yeah. And then this match, it was pretty okay, I think. Ariana did a pretty good job mostly at doing what I think she was meant to do, though I think she made a few fumbles here and there throughout the match. But yeah, like she did fairly well, I think. Like I haven't really seen her wrestle very much. I think like, I don't think she's like a very full-time wrestler anyway, which, like, that's all right. If you don't want to be a full-time wrestler, or if you want to find the things that you want to do when you want to do them and do them, hey, do it. Like, if you just want to be doing other things and just doing character work or whatever else it is, and just doing promos or whatever and that sort of thing, that's up to you. Don't have to just be a wrestler, but she did some stuff here that I thought, for somebody that's still sort of, I don't know how long she's been around or whatever, but for somebody who a lot of people said, oh, she's not very good or whatever, like some of her, like, I don't know how well she'd work as a heel, but like, I think thus far, like, it's not like she's the best or whatever else, obviously not, but still, I think some people underestimate her, and she's pretty all right, I guess. And she still needs to improve, but still, I think, she has improved. But yeah, Tessa Blanchard got the victory here. Post-match, Santino did come back out to, help his daughter, but Robert Stone said, "Hey, get the frig out of here. The show's over here, get out of here." Even though they were walking up the ramp, it's like, dude, get the fuck out of the way, type thing. But there's great heat in many ways. And then Robert Stone came out to introduce Victoria Crawford in the upcoming Knockouts title match. I was pretty surprised with how good this match was in some ways, especially considering Crawford's first match. I don't know whether it was her or her opponent, or it was a miscommunication error, or it was a timing error, or whatever it was, but it was just like stuff went very wrong in their match that they had. So I really don't know what was going on there and how that was all happening and whatnot, or why that was such a poor match. But yeah, stuff happens, doesn't it? But she certainly looked good or better in this match. And these girls, they had a really quite good match, even though it felt sort of short. I can't recall how long this actually was. But yeah, this was good stuff here. Between these two. Unfortunately for me, Masha won this one, but it sort of starts becoming to my perspective, before you start saying, again, same sort of thing. You're looking at trying to book the biggest people, i.e. your champion, versus your biggest contender. If you're thinking about somebody being the biggest contender, you have to think about Tessa, unfortunately, in many ways. So I feel like they had a regular ass, match before. So it only proceeds to say now it's time to have some sort of alternate rules type match between the two, if you're going to have a match between the two. Maybe you could have Knockouts Queen of the Mountain, I don't know, or Knockouts, Fatal 5-Way or something else, whatever. And Tessa's involved, but again, I don't know. So yeah. At the end of the match, Masha called out Leiling Lee and said that she wanted to challenge her next for the Knockouts title. What? That's really confusing to me, in some ways. She said, "Oh, I've seen what you've done and whatnot, and I'm impressed, so I want you to challenge me, Okay. I don't know how many matches Lee has even had. I don't even know how many wins she's got. She hasn't got that many, wins, really, as a singles wrestler. She's been tagging with Zyra a fair bit of late. But yeah, whatever, if it's just another holdover match or whatever else it is for Against All Odds, then that's alright, I guess. But still, I guess as well, it's one of those things, they're trying to set these things up as quickly as what they can, because that's only 2 weeks away. So it's yeah, we've got to get these things going, or the ball rolling and whatnot, and we've got to get tickets sold and whatnot and all of this sort of stuff. So it is very much yeah, we need to get the ball rolling on at least some of the next things, so people can see, hey, this is kind of where we're going, or this is kind of what we're envisioning, or whatever else it is, so that, we can have a match at this point with these people or those people or whatever else it is. So, but yeah. But Mr. Stone said, hey, you can't just get a title match because you asked for a title match. Next week, she has to have a match to earn it or whatever. So we don't know who that's against yet, but I'm assuming it doesn't really matter because I'm assuming that this is what they're gonna do. Lots of promo or a promo about WWE Battleground. It's really weird to me to say that WWE is promoting their show on TNA because TNA is such a small or so much smaller platform. Yes, I get it that it might be a different wrestling audience, but I don't think there's that many people that don't know what WWE and NXT are doing. So just to say, here's some advertising, put it on your show when you're the smaller company isn't really doing anything, I don't think. So, yeah, whatever. Then TNA paid tribute to Sabu, and I was feeling like, okay, that's kind of cool. So I'm assuming this is a Hall of Fame induction type thing, and then nothing. So, like, yeah, sure, it's one of those things to say they could have just done this to do it, but, like, I feel like they already did it, so I'm like, well, come on, like, why not try and at least induct him? Like, why not? I don't know. But still, whatever. Or do something with it. Or have a Sabu themed match of some sort. The Sabu Table Invitational or something. I don't know. Whatever. Something to sort of say, hey, let's do something to honor him, in a bigger way, something else. I don't know. The Hardys, well, Matt Hardy and Leon Slater versus the Nemesis. I don't know. I can't choose. I think that the next match was the tag match of the night. Actually, honestly, yeah, I think that it was. I think that this was pretty decent. I think the fact that Leon carried most of this match was a good call. Because again, like, not to be mean or anything to Matt, but like, if you're older and slower, the best thing for you to do is come in for the hot, even if it is like that you're not as hot as and you can't go as hard as what you used to. Like, at least you're only really in there for like the hot tag type things, and that's your real big contribution. Like, you could be in there, he was certainly in there for other little bits and whatnot and things like that throughout this match, but that was his main role, to sort of like get the hot tag and then do some stuff. Like, the match went on from there, but still, like, yeah, I think that Leon had a really good showing here, honestly, in this match. I loved the fact that he did the Slater twist, or whatever he calls it, into Matt Hardy's plot twist thing. Although it was weird, or not weird, but it was a bit awkward that Matt again almost botched that neck breaker, and the timing of it and the positioning of it, I guess. But like, it's really tough when you don't know where somebody's gonna come from in, like, coming down or whatever else it is. So I guess you can give him a pass on that. He didn't know how high or where Nemeth would come down at the time. So yeah, but still, unfortunately, the Nemeth retained here. So I still feel like at some point you've got to have the Hardys versus the Nemeth, or at least in some, like sort of, I don't know, like, some degree. Like, even if it's in a elimination tag team match of some sort or something. I don't know. But again, you've got to have them wrestle each other. I don't know. So, but yeah, I think this was fine, and I really liked Leon. So I'm wanting to see more of him. I'm wanting to see more of KC as well, because that kid, like we've talked about him and talked about Leon, but these kids, I really like them, and I really like to see more from them. So, yeah, but whatever. The poetic dive from Leon Slater, which was his big play Slater move, basically, but he got an assist from Matt, in the corner, was really cool as well. Backstage, Santino Marella wants a match between Robert Stone, Ariana Grace wanted to up the ante by saying they should join forces to take on Stone and Blanchard in a tag match. I said this sort of thing might happen. Kind of. I think I did anyway. But I don't know. I thought Robert was like a retired dude. Like, I don't know. So maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't happen. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah. Whatever. Under Siege main event, Trick Williams and Frankie Kazarian versus Joe and Elijah. By God, the pop as well for Joe Hendry. Like, insane pop. Huge pop, they say. This was a great match because you've got, like, everyone in this can go. Everyone in this. And even Elijah was, pulling off moves that I haven't really seen him pull off. I don't know whether he's, really pulls them off that much, but he's pulling off, like, arm drags and things like that from the top and things like this and, like, whatnot. So it's like, like you get used to seeing somebody do certain things. But here, like, he did certainly do a lot of those things as well, but still, it's like, when you start doing some of these other things, it's like, what? I didn't know you do this, man. Like, what the heck, like, pulling this stuff out, like, yeah. But the best thing here is, like, the fact that all these guys, like, were in this match, out of this match, doing their stuff. Like, there was a clear story of, like, trying to keep, Trick and Joe, like, separated, and whatnot, so that their match will be kind of as fresh as possible. So they did certainly wrestle against each other, or certainly did, hit each other with moves and whatnot throughout this match, but they weren't often the two legal. Like, they certainly were at times, yes, but, like, for the majority of the match, it wasn't them ever being legal. It was somebody else or something else or whatever else it was, keeping them sort of apart and that sort of thing, so that it's like, builds back up. And I really like the moment where Kazarian tagged himself in when I think Joe Hendry tagged himself in so that Trick couldn't face Joe. Then Joe tagged out to put Elijah in, and then, Trick, he tagged back out and all of this. So it was like, in and out. Like, so they were back to, gonna face each other again. But yeah, at the end of this, Joe Hendry was able to get the pinfall win on Kazarian. And then at the end, Trick Williams stared down Joe Hendry before their upcoming match at WWE Battleground. So, yeah, I think that sets up WWE Battleground pretty well. I'm obviously not going to watch it or review it or discuss it or whatever, just mentioning it. But yeah, that's a good setup. Like I said before, like, but again, it could have just happened like on a random, episode of TNA, or this could have happened on a random episode of TNA, and the Trick Joe match could have happened here. Whatever, I don't know. I guess they needed another match for NXT and they wanted to have Joe on it, so whatever. But still, that is in one ways as well kind of even though the mainstream WWE audience has seen Joe Hendry now on a couple of shows like WrestleMania and Royal Rumble and whatnot, again, like, you're still kind of ingratiating him like as if he's like already kind of on the NXT roster, and it looks like he'll like almost automatically go to the main roster after this. So, so he probably won't be in that roster. If he is, he won't be there for very long. So, you're kind of fast tracking him in some way, even though he's not there every single week, or like he's there a lot, but he's not there all the time or whatever. But still, and the thing is, you start asking yourself that question of saying, well, what was this whole thing with Obafemi? What's going on there, if anything? I don't know. Be interesting to find out in some ways, but like, then will it ever happen? Don't know. But anyway, like, mostly a really good show here. Quite an enjoyable show, and I've I think, like, despite the card not being that amazing, I think like some of the matches certainly had somewhat decent-ish builds at least. But like always, every time TNA delivers, like, they always deliver in the ring. Some matches do better than others, especially when you decide to say, hey, let us put one of our young projects out there and, just see what happens. Because like, he, like, even saying like he's better than AJ, it's like, yeah, unfortunately. Well, I don't know. I guess as well, he performs a different role, and that role happens to be better for putting on better matches. Like, I think he's more athletic. That's what kind of people want. People kind of want to see these young guys go out there and kill it, So they're kind of rooting for him in some ways, just to be, taken seriously. They want him to be, good. And I think they saw that tonight, and I think that's why that segment got such a good reaction. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see for more. But yeah, this was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it, even though, like, perhaps the card wasn't as inviting. Like, but then again, a lot of these, like, B shows or whatever you want to call them aren't usually as, like, stacked in many ways as, like, the bigger, like, shows. So I think that's fine. They're just trying to get by. And again, it's still working. And again, like, even though I'm saying a few things that are, like, negative, I mean, you can't disagree with the success. So it's like, well, as long as they can keep that success up. But yeah, I just hope for that. And but yeah, guys, I hope if you did watch this show, I hope you enjoyed it. And certainly, as I said, we'll definitely be very quick into Against All Odds content soon. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I hope you will join me again in another one of those upcoming ones.